And the next item on our agenda is Amplifying F#. So this is a community effort, and I think it will take a couple of people to add everyone to the show. So let's start with that, because we invited basically everyone involved. I'm impressed by our system, which apparently can handle this many people.
Hello, everyone.
So we've got Edgar, Jimmy, Florian, and David talking about Amplifying F#, and I'll hand over to whoever is ready to get started. Who drew the short stick?
I'll get started. Is wonderful. Yes. Hello. Hi, everyone. So first off, thanks a bunch for having us. My name is Florian, and today we wish to enlighten you a little bit about what our new Amplifying F# initiative is. We launched it a couple of months ago, and Amplifying F# tries to promote hands-on collaboration on open source software in the F# space. That sounds very great, but what exactly do we mean by that? Well, we think F# as an ecosystem could be so much more than it is today, and there are still a lot of gaps where people could contribute to the existing tools that we use. And we really hope to see some growth in that contributions to mainly the compiler, to some tooling, but just some other great open source libraries. We believe that more businesses should give back to the community and make the overall F# experience better. The F# compiler, for example, the Microsoft team does an amazing job to maintain it, but somehow that issue you reported 3 years ago never really got solved. Well, a couple of reasons for that. The F# team is a handful of people, and they just cannot do everything. The F# compiler is a large code base, so it is very realistic that not every issue gets addressed. But when you zoom in on this, and this is just a dramatic zoom, but there actually are 1,000 open issues in the F# repository right now. So you just cannot expect one team to fix all of those things. And if you play the waiting game and just hope someone will fix it, well, that's not going to really work out for you as well. We really want to encourage people to work on the problems that they have a stake in. And of course, it's very easy to say that, like, you should fix it yourself. Well, you just might feel overwhelmed to get involved in these larger open source projects. They're typically very different from your line of business application. However, speaking from experience, you don't need to be an expert in absolutely everything to make a difference, to fix a certain problem and to get there. And that's where Amplifying F# comes in. We try to help those who are willing to contribute. In practice, we do this by a weekly stream. We just try and create a safe space where you can learn from peers and mentors in the F# community. We just really try and connect the right people. And depending on the topic, we just try and get the experts on the call. Now, we don't limit ourselves purely to the F# compiler, although so far that has been having the compiler and tooling has been having the greatest focus. But we're really open to all different kind of projects. So if you just want to learn how to contribute to something, or if you are the maintainer of a certain project and you want to draw in some more people, we would be happy to have you. We're not really tied to any organization. We're just some folks that want to see the world changed. We also don't want to compete with any existing initiatives out there, like the F# Foundation and the mentorship program, or F# Online. Our focus is really about getting those contributions to various projects and a little less about learning the F# language itself. Before we go over to some more details, we'd briefly like to introduce ourselves. As I'm already more or less holding the microphone, I'll go first. So I'm Florian, but you might know me as Node.js on GitHub. I'm mostly known for my contributions in the Phantomus tool. Phantomus is, if you don't know, a tool that allows you to reformat your F# code, so like a code formatter. And it actually takes a dependency on the F# compiler on the parser and the syntax tree. In order to solve certain Phantomus bugs, I just longed for more information in the F# compiler. But back then, a couple of years ago, well, the F# compiler was just mean and scary. I reached out to Chet Husk, and we just jumped on a Skype call to do some pair programming. I found a mentor figure, and I was able to get out my first contribution to the compiler. And after realizing the first PR wasn't all that bad, I did another one, and I eventually was able to improve the syntax tree or enrich it to a point where Phantomus was getting so much better in terms of performance that the F# team is now using it itself in the compiler code base. About a year ago, I joined the open source team of a company called G Research. They're a global fintech company, and they use F# on a large scale. And unfortunately, they have some bigger issues with F#, mainly in terms of the tooling and the compiler, and it's slow compared to some other of the languages they use. But the great thing is that G Research is really willing to invest in the open source software that they're using. So they try to actively contribute back to everything that they use, so that does not limit only to F#, but also to various other projects. And so on behalf of G Research, I've been contributing to a lot of things in the compiler in order to get some better results tailored to what they need for performance over at G Research. But with doing that, I actually get to learn the compiler code base a little bit. And yeah, there's actually a lot of stuff just still in more or less a broken state. Not dramatically broken that you would see it as an end user, but there's just a lot of work left to do in a large code base like that. And seeing this made me realize that we should have more hands and eyes on this. And that's how I try to drag more people into the rabbit hole, like David. David, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Sorry. Classic. Yeah, I'm David, running with the nickname Dave in the internet. Currently located in Germany. And like many others, I fell in love with functional programming during my university time. But as functional jobs were scarce back then, it always stayed a hobby while my day job was C#. But I used F# for advent of code or the occasional side project, but that was it. Things changed when I joined an awesome company called Rhein Spree, which uses F# quite a lot. That was roughly 2 years ago. And a bit later, I started to contribute to Phantomas, and as we began using it inside of the company. If I remember correctly, my first contribution was a super simple documentation fix to some MD file. But as Florian gives great tips in the issue comments he gives, I could quickly move on to real code contributions. I found great mentorship in Florian, and things escalated so much that I eventually became a co-maintainer of Phantomas. Well, this escalation continued some more, so much that I also joined the G Research open source team in March this year, which means that I work pretty much full-time in the open source ecosystem of F# nowadays. Getting into the open source team was only possible because Florian knew me from my work on Phantomas. Without that, I would have never had the chance to make this change in my professional life. So the effort I put into contributing to open source paid off for me in the greatest way imaginable. We all know the many negative open source stories about maintainers burning out, contributors feeling frustrated, leaving projects and anger, drama here, drama there, and so on and so on. So please take my story as an example on the positive side of things. It was a big effort, and it still is for me, but I'm getting back so much in return. It's all worth it. So I'm making friends from all over the world, learning from the brightest minds in the community. All that happens because I started contributing with a super simple documentation fix and worked my way up from there, while being mentored by someone who understood the importance of helping a newcomer finding his way. And my message would be start to contribute no matter how small you think the value of your PR might be, and don't let anything discourage you right away. The F# community is far from perfect. It's run by humans after all, but I'm confident we can say it is something special. So speaking of something special, here's Jimmy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jimmy Bird. You'll probably see me as the Angry Bird on GitHub and various other places, and I'm from the United States. I've been a .NET developer for about 15 years, and I've been doing F# professionally for about 8 of them. I've been doing the .NET in many different industries, from plumbing to education to consulting, cybersecurity, and recently I'm doing medical. I started with functional programming, getting my feet wet with like LINQ and reactive extensions, and eventually I found myself using F#, and I've been in love with it ever since. I'm currently employed at Motivity. It's a management platform for applied behavior analysis and development therapies. Specifically, we target autism therapies. We use F# to power the platform on the front end and the back end, and thankfully they allow me to contribute to open source projects. And since I've been doing F# professionally for about 8 years, I've contributed to numerous projects and over the years, and I found myself being a maintainer of them. Some notable projects is FS Toolkit.error handling, which is a railroad-oriented programming library. Mark Seaman and Thomas talked a little bit about kind of async results and things like that. You may be with that. Miniscaffold is another project. It's a .NET template for creating open source libraries. ICE tasks, which is additional task computation expressions. And more recently, I became a maintainer of Ionide along with Chet. And speaking of like contributing to tooling, here's Edgar.
Hi, everyone. My name is Edgar Gonzalez. I live in Spain, and I'm currently a mobile developer at Fund Ourselves, which is a fintech in the UK. In order to, and also I'm one of the maintainers of Fabulous, F# mobile library. And to understand why Amplify exists, I will need to tell you a little bit about my story life. Before I became a software developer, I was a soldier for 11 years. And due to a life-changing accident, I decided that it was a good time to switch careers. So is it fair to say that I am a developer by accident? No pun intended. I discovered F# during my first years as a .NET developer while using a technology called Xamarin and using C#. And following my curiosity, I started to learn more about F# and quickly realized that I really like it and I would love to work on full time with it. So I moved from Spain to the UK to make this happen. During the learning process, I noticed that the libraries that I was using, Fabulous and the F# compiler, were not giving me the best error messages in some instance, and it was hard to understand. So after the usual adaptation process and the encouragement from my employer about contributing to open source, I started to feel more confident, and I decided it was time to contribute. So I choose two projects. The first one is Fabulous, which I contributed adding support for frameworks like Xamarin Forms or Maui or Avalonia. Also creating sample apps, writing documentations, and also working on the version 2 of Fabulous, thanks to my employer. In the compiler, I started with good first issues like improving error messages, improving error ranges, and adding missing warnings or error messages to make the overall experience better. I was motivated to see that my contributions were reviewed, accepted, and merged, and I was part of the F# 7 release. But the more I contributed, the more I wanted to look for more issues to solve. So I went from 0 to almost 80 contributions in 60 months. For some of these contributions, I had the chance to work and to do pair programming sessions with members of the F# community, like Florian, Brian from Fantomas, Timothy from Fabulous, and really thankful for Eugene from JetBrains. All these sessions were focused on specific issues that will improve the overall dev experience on Fabulous and the compiler and in JetBrains, that is the IDE that I use. But the idea of amplifying F# came during my farm duties. I have a small farm in Spain where I grow my vegetables. And at that time, I was watering my broccolis. And an idea came to mind. What about having an initiative similar to the sessions that I had with Florian and Timothy and Eugene that will focus on fixing specific issues, working with maintainers and contributors to help them give back to the compiler tooling and any F# related project? So I reached out to Florian, David, and Jimmy, and they were quickly on board. So we started this adventure together. As you know, great thing never came from comfort zone. So a couple of the motivations that we had for amplifying F# was encouraging more contributors to the F# compiler that will have several benefits for the language and its community, like community growth, like faster development, like increased adoption. multiple agendas, targets, or focus point. When you raise a session on Amplifying F#, we understand that it's something important to you or your employer. And that might differ from what is the official team's roadmap. In the F# repository, you can see that the F# team focus on compiler maintenance and Visual Studio. We have also JetBrains who work on the Lexer, parser, and other editor features. We have G Research, which invests heavily on performance, and also the community that it works on language approved suggestions. So we also, one of our goals is also a safe space to collaborate, brainstorm, gather ideas, where we the aim of this is to have regular scheduled sessions where we work together to fix a specific issue. Connect with the individuals in the community to facilitate knowledge transfer. Encourage participation in F#. And support your local F# meetup and conference like this. And also work a little bit on the Messiah problem. We should not depend or rely on one contributor to fix, maintain a specific project. To finish part of my presentation, I would like to share one of my favorite slogans. If you have visited London and you have used the tube, you have heard for sure a security slogan that says, if you see that something doesn't look right, speak to staff or text to British Transport Police on 61016. We will sort it. See it, say it, sort it. I took the liberties of modifying this slogan and make it more OS friendly. And the result is, if you see something doesn't look right, speak to the community or raise an issue. And if you can, sort it. So see it, say it, sort it. And next, I would like to hand it to David, which is going to tell us what we have accomplished so far.
Yes, we are really proud that the large majority of our sessions have a real pull request on GitHub as an outcome, and usually these pull requests are merged after some polishing. The issues we work on in our sessions range from issues in the F# compiler itself to developer tooling and libraries. Sometimes the issue is some years old, sometimes the champion of the session just raised the issue a couple of days before. So far, we had over a dozen champions with all kinds of backgrounds. Some were newcomers, some were veterans, very big names of the community, and everything in between. Of course, there's not enough time to describe every session in detail, but there are some sessions we want to pick out as examples. Our second session was on Ionide and FS Autocomplete. The champions were Jimmy and Chad. The goal was to improve the experience regarding moving files in a project. There was no solution finalized during the session itself, but we had a lot of great feedback from the viewers. Why? We think because the audience really enjoyed the introduction to the architecture and design of Ionide and FS Autocomplete, and it was encouraging for us to see that there was a real hunger to see these learnings. So another special session was done by Florian in Norway at the Norwegian podcast company called NRK. They was a big user of the open source ecosystem of F#. Based on public information, Florian showed how to get a rough idea about the health of a project your company depends on, something really crucial for a business. Among other things, the participants learned how to approach an open source project, how to get an idea what contributions might be needed, and how to maximize the chance to get a PR merged. The other session I want to point out was our first live session back in May that was hosted by the good people of the London F# Londoners meetup. From a social and a community perspective, it was really a beautiful evening with great interactions among the participants. The issue we worked on during the session was a language suggestion by Kathleen Dollard, created in 2021. You might recognize that name by now. It was about a compiler warning that should be emitted when the compiler selects among multiple record types candidates during type inference. Back then, there was a lot of support for the suggestion, but somehow nobody really came around to implement it. So during the session, we briefly introduced the code to hacking in the compiler code base, and we were really able to come up with a prototype implementation. And after some polishing, it was also merged to the compiler. So to sum up our accomplishments so far, we think that the initiative has been a success. We made real contributions to projects, we created knowledge transfer, and maybe the most important thing, we inspired others to start contributing. Some of you might have noticed that there was a recent compiler PR merged by Suchki, sorry if I mangled your name, who learned the needed skills by attending our sessions. And that's exactly what we wanted to achieve, to grow the ranks of contributors in the community.
And speaking of growing your contributors, we welcome anyone to join us for a session. Our goal is to connect contributors to projects. You can find our website at amplifying-f# at github.io. There's a join us button. It'll take you to a form and it'll ask for your name, your time zone, so we can schedule a session and a topic of your choosing. If you have a specific issue you want to work on, you can list it. If there's a specific project, but you don't know exactly what you want to work on, you can list it. And if you don't really know, that's fine too. We also have spots for F# showcases or showcases of F# projects, so you can get a glimpse of what's going on in the community and actually maybe find something that interests you. We have done many sessions and we've done a lot of things in tooling, but that's not everything we do. But we've been able to do things with F# features, Visual Studio tooling, FS Autocomplete, Rider, Phantomus, Telplin, FS Docs, Perla, and Vide. But anything in the F# space is we're open to having people contribute to. And if you're looking for issues to find on different projects, some of the labels to look for are something like up for grabs, get a good first issue, or help wanted. And so, like I said, we do a lot of tooling, but you can choose anything in that helps the F# community. Now, don't play the waiting game. As we said, this is something you get. If you want to join, you should go and hit that button, and we'd love to have you. And we're all learning. We're all here to help each other. And we're all in this together.
Now, there's a bit of a side note when it comes to what expectations you can have from a Amplifying F# session. We typically stream for about 2 hours, and we just cannot fix every problem in that time frame. And also, it could potentially be the case that we got absolutely nowhere, because some of the stuff just really is hard. There's no denying that. But it's still better than playing the waiting game. There is also a limited influence of what Amplifying F# has. I think the best example there is like a F# language suggestion. We could work on it, but if it's not approved, it's not going to get merged in. So definitely try and be aware upfront whether your idea or the change you want to make will be accepted by the maintainers. Now, that being said, you will definitely learn a lot about the F# language, and it will broaden your horizon when interacting with all these open source projects. So we really encourage everybody to do it. It's like one of those hidden training paths in terms of improving your F# skill. We also would like to thank these companies. They have been involved and letting people join our streams on company time. So in a sense, they have been sponsoring this. Very much appreciated. Thank you all.
Yes, before we wrap up our session, a small announcement. There will be another live session next Saturday, July 1st in Bingen, Germany. It's located near Frankfurt. If you're interested in attending, you can find all the information on our GitHub.io page or get in contact with us directly.
With this, thank you very much for having us, and we are looking forward to hear from you at Amplifying F#. And remember, see it, say it, sorted.
And with
and
that,
now we will answer any question.
Amazing, guys. Then thanks a lot. It was really great. We were just like clapping all the time because I think what you did is actually amazing, because there's nothing better when people who are enthusiastic about something encourage the rest of the community, do something, do fix some stuff, to jump into the F#. I think you are doing a really, really great job. And I see all the time comments from Don Syme himself who say, oh, I love this movement. So like, keep doing, guys. It's amazing. Thanks for that.
I'm just not going to get that announcement from the London Tube from my head for another year. I've moved from London last year, and it's still in the head, hardwired. And now you've put it back. Let's see if we've got any questions here from the comments.
Yeah, we have Don like applauding here.
It's more of a comment.
Yeah.
But we have. Is the time there? Well, I mean, I think the general question is, what should people do to join? Where should they go? When does this happen? And if you're planning sessions on other days as well. So where should people go? When do you do this?
In terms of where people should go, they can go to that website that was listed, the amplifying-fsharp.github.io, and the join us button. And so you can go to that. In terms of time, we've typically done them on Fridays, but I'm pretty sure we're very flexible about when that can work if we need to schedule another time.
So what happens when people click the join button? Do they get an email or
It's actually just a GitHub issue.
It's a GitHub issue, so everything gets discussed there.
Yep.
Yeah.
That sounds easy enough. So everyone should click the join button and participate.
And also we have a YouTube channel where all our sessions they got recorded there and they can be watched afterwards. So you're not going to lose the previous sessions. Always is tracking in YouTube.
Yeah, at the website at the very bottom we list all of our social media, and YouTube links is down there as well, so you can find all our previous sessions. And also, if you click the sessions button, it'll take you to the pages, and you can see it also has a direct link to the YouTube video.
Sounds good. I think that, and there's your Twitter account as well, where people can follow. So I think it's going to be in Bingen, so Bing Amplifying F#, and you can join in person as well.
Definitely.
I think that's it for now. So we've got 1 minute before the next session, which is amazing. And thank you again for joining us, and thanks for running a great initiative.
Thanks, guys.
For having us.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
Bye.